Yo, feel good Stanley Cup champions. What does that mean? So pretty much what this tier list is going to be is, just objectively looking at all of the Stanley Cup champions since the year 2000 and which one just has the overall good vibe. I'm trying to look at this as a neutral hockey fan, okay? And just overall, what was the best vibe out of the Stanley Cup champion and what was the worst? Like, oh man, I'm really happy for that team, regardless of what team or teams I cheer for. Or, oh man, I can't believe these guys won. That just sucks. This year sucks. So yeah, I'm gonna be looking at the overall vibe. I'm gonna look at who they beat as well, and did they ruin a good journey? You'll see that comes up a few times, especially ones with the Chicago Blackhawks. So I'll talk about that later. And how many Hall of Famers got a cup or got their first cup? That's going to be something I consider. And not just Hall of Famers, but also veterans who are really due for a Stanley Cup, finally getting that Stanley Cup. And then, of course, I have to mention my bias as a Sharks fan. Now, I'm going to try to keep the bias out of this, but I do need to say some feelings might come out when it comes to certain teams that are also in California or in Chicago, but I'm gonna try to contain that, okay? And finally, this is all for jokes, okay? This is all. Don't take this too seriously, all right? And if you cheer for one of these teams and you don't like where I place them, well, guess what? Your favorite team won a Stanley Cup because they're in this list. So that's something you've got on me because my favorite team has never won a Stanley Cup, and at this rate, I don't know if they ever will. So, anyways, don't take this too seriously. I'm going to try to go in order here. We'll start with 2000. That is the New Jersey Devils in the year 2000. Now, this is their second go-around with the Stanley Cup. They won it in 1995. A lot of the same core. On my other screen, I also have the rosters from these teams. I'm going to pause halfway because I'm going to have to load up a few more rosters here. But, Niedermeyer getting a second cup with the team. Same with Stevens. Same with Broder. You got kind of the same crew here. Who did they beat? They beat the Dallas Stars, who just came off of a Stanley Cup 2 the year prior. So, kind of an underwhelming one. I'm going to put them in the C tier for now. And I am open to rearranging this later on, but yeah, I'm okay with them in C tier for this one. I mean, come on, like this is their second cup, pretty much the same core. Elias getting his cup and Gomez getting his cup. That's pretty cool, but nothing really standing out too much in that one. Oh man, watch! I probably missed some like big player that won a cup there. Okay, here's a big one. So 2001, the Colorado Avalanche. This has to go in S tier. When you think feel good Stanley Cups, it just comes down to one player, Ray Bourque, one of the best defensemen of all time. Like 20 years of his NHL career, didn't even sniff the Stanley Cup. Well, I mean, he made a few finals with Boston, but he gets traded to Colorado. Goes for a run, and it's just iconic. He wins that Stanley Cup, retires right after. That has to be S tier. And I know Colorado, they just won a cup before that in 96, so not too long before that. But, I mean, come on. It's Ray Bourque. This is such an iconic Stanley Cup. That has to be S tier. It's the definition of S tier. Also, you got Rob Blake winning his first and I think his only cup as well. So that's a pretty cool story as well. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good spot. Alex Tanguay, Milan Hajduk getting a cup in there too. So, yeah, I'm happy with that in S tier. 2002, that was the Detroit Red Wings with Hasek. Okay, so Dominic Hasek winning his Stanley Cup. Where's the picture? Anyways, it's right here. Oh, it's kind of in the middle there. But, yeah, this team was stacked. Like, stacked. You had Shanahan, Fedorov. They got Brett Hull for this run. That was his second Stanley Cup, I believe. Lindstrom, of course. Robitaille. Yzerman. Larry Onoff. Chelios. Like, Datsuk. Draper. Like, this team was stacked. But they got Hasek their cup. That's a good feel-good story as well. They beat the Carolina Hurricanes, which was a nice Cinderella story, but Arthur Zerbe and the boys just weren't gonna get it done. So for the Hasek factor, these guys were stacked, and that's gonna lose them some points. This team was just loaded, but considering the Hasek factor and considering the standard I already made with the New Jersey Devils in the C tier, I'm gonna put them in B for this one. I'm pretty happy with that. It's nice seeing Hasek win a cup, though. I don't want that to get understated. Okay. This might be our first F tier. So the New Jersey Devils in 2003 over the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. Such a great story for the Ducks. And we're not done talking about the Ducks either. And they just get dunked on in the finals by, a really, really good New Jersey Devils team. But this is their third cup. I'm looking at their roster. It's a lot of the same guys. You got Langenberger in for this run, but it's a lot of the same guys. And they just, the Scott Stevens hit on Paul Kariya too. I think that kind of taints it. Yeah. Sorry, I had a weird inhale there. I'm leaning towards F. I might bump this one up to C later on, but they ruined what was a really good story. J.S. Jaguar, he was on a mission and they ruined that, and yeah, I might bump that up to C later, but you know what? I'm gonna put it on C because I don't want to get any haters on me here. I'll put it in C tier, but no, I gotta be strong. I'm putting that in F tier. I gotta stick to my guns. Okay, 2004 Tampa Bay Lightning. Where did you go, Tampa Bay Lightning? Oh, there you are, Dave Anderchuk. That was a really good story. Marty St. Louis getting his cup. I think that was his only cup. David Anderchuk as well. He was a veteran, and I think that was his first and only cup. So you've got a similar story. Just taking a look here. He never won with the Devils. No, he didn't win with the Devils. Or Colorado. I didn't know he went to Colorado. So he's been chasing a cup for a while. So that's his first and only cup. That's a good story. I'm a big Happy Bulin fan. I really like this run. It's a little tainted by that goal that didn't count for Calgary, though I'm personally on the team, thinking that goal shouldn't have counted because the overhead view and all of that, but I can see why Flames fans are mad. Le Cavalier, Richards, a lot of guys that were due here. I'm going to put this in the A tier. I think that was a pretty good one. I don't think Anderchuk winning the cup is quite as iconic as Bourque, but still a good story. And I'm going to put the Carolina Hurricanes 2006. I'm going to put that in the same spot. I'm going to put it in the A tier as well. I think they were really similar stories, right? Like they both beat Alberta teams in 7 games. This team had a lot of young players that would go on to have really good careers as well, like Eric Stahl and Justin Williams. Rod Brind'Amour getting a cup here, that's obviously a big deal. It's too bad that Ron Francis wasn't on this team anymore. He might have retired by then. A young Andrew Ladd was on this team as well. Ray Whitney. So, Eric Cole, really, really good team here. Cam Ward was a really good story as well. I know him from my days in Sylvan Lake Hockey School when I was a kid. He was a coach at the hockey school the year before he won this cup. So it was kind of cool. I got to meet Cam Ward before he went on to win this cup when he was just coming out of junior. I'll put him in the A tier. That feels right. 2007. This to me is a real feel-good one as well. Now, I might dock him some points because this team was really stacked too, the 2007 Ducks, but this was a good redemption story. They really were a good redemption story. They went to the finals in 2003, lost, just a tragic loss, and that's why I got the Devils in F tier for that. But, Solani and the boys, but I think the only thing that's stopping this from being S tier is they didn't have Korea. If they had Korea on this team, I feel like that would be a really different story. But Chris Pronger got his cup. Scott Niedermayer got another cup. I think his brother was part of that run too. Timu getting his cup as well at the age of 36. Yeah, I think I mentioned Pronger. J.S. Shigeru getting his cup. You know what? Screw it. I'm putting an S tier. Like, just looking at the roster, yeah, I feel like this team should be there in S tier. It's a shame that it was done without Korea, though. I think that's the only thing. The only thing, like, oh man, I really feel like this would just feel a little more powerful if Paul Korea was still part of the roster. But hockey's a business, and the cards just didn't line up. He might have been retired by then too, for all I know. So yeah, 2008. That was the Detroit Red Wings. Bit of a different core. Keep in mind, this Stanley Cup happened 6 years after their previous one, but they had some retirements in there too. Lindstrom's off the team, Shanahan's off the team. Hasek was backing up during this run. Chris Osgood really put on just a stellar performance. He was great the next year against the Pens too. So yeah, on this roster, you got Datsuk, Zetterberg, Lindstrom, Danny Cleary, my boy from Newfoundland. Yeah, a real good roster. Chris Chelios still kicking around on that team as well. I don't think he got traded before this run. My hockey reference doesn't really tell me that much. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good run though. I think I'm going to put them... It was a really good Stanley Cup Finals too. Same with the next year. I'm going to put this on the B tier. Oh, I don't know why it's... Okay, I guess B tier is... Oh. Okay, yeah. I kind of just stole these pictures off the internet, so if B tier is a little elongated, whatever. I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, I'm going to put them on the B tier. I think that's a pretty good spot. The Pens, 2009, their first cup. This is with Crosby. Really young core. You have Crosby, you have Letang, you have Malkin. Malkin just having a stellar regular season and playoffs that year. He won the Conn Smythe that year. A bunch of legends in the making here. Marc-Andre Fleury, Jordan Staal. Ruslan Fedotenko was on that team too. Not bad. I don't know if he got traded before the cup run. Satan, my boy Satan, winning his first and only Stanley Cup, I believe. That's a good story too. They had Matt Cook, so I guess that loses some points because he's kind of a piece of trash. But I'm okay putting them on B tier for this one too. Good run. Really good run. Exciting young team. Don't really know if I'm going to put it on the A tier, but I think B is a good spot for them. 2010. This is the first one by the Chicago Blackhawks. And yeah, you're going to hear me talk about them a lot in this video. But the Chicago Blackhawks, this is the first cup for Kane, for Taves, for Duncan Keith as well, who had a really good season that year. Patrick Sharp was on that team. All the classic players from the Chicago Blackhawks. Hossa, third time's the charm, am I right? He won a cup. Much deserved, and he would go on to have a nice stretch with the Blackhawks and that core. Yeah, Andrew Ladd making another stop, just kind of hitchhiking his way onto another Stanley Cup roster for this one. Good for him. Dustin Byfuglien, who would go on to be an absolute legend in the NHL, in my opinion. This is where it all started. You had my boy Antti Niemi. And I think what tops this all off is this is their first Stanley Cup in, I think, 47 years. I think they won a cup in 63, and they might have only made one final in between then in the 90s. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, good story. Definitely worthy of A tier. I think that's pretty safe to say. Maybe there's a bit of Sharks bias coming out here. Cristobal Huey. Oh man, Huey. I might have to put it on S tier for Huey, but no. S tier. It's for the elite cup runs. That was a pretty good cup run though. I gotta put that one on the E tier. Okay, huge asterisks on this one. The Boston Bruins in 2011 over the Vancouver Canucks. Now, I need to make sure it's just clear. This has nothing to do with this Boston Bruins at all. This has nothing to do with the Vancouver Canucks. This just has to do with the nature of these finals, like how the games went. They were real chippy games. It was not a good series. And then, of course, the infamous riot in Vancouver after Game 7. And it sucks, because, you look at the players who were involved in this series. Bergeron, Marchand, Chara winning the cup. And even on the other side, you had the Sedins, like Luongo, like you had some of the real best players in hockey at the time, and players that go on to continue to be some of the best. This should have been a really good final, but it's just tainted with a riot and just real bad hockey. And even the conference finals going into this Stanley Cup were really good. It kills me to say that because I think they beat the Sharks in 5, the Vancouver Canucks, but the East finals were solid that year. I gotta put an F tier though. It was just like, and I feel bad because the Bruins, man, they deserved it. They really did, and I'm happy for Chara and Bergeron and Marchand and all those guys. Krejci, of course. Mark Recchi was on that team too. Nathan Horton, like, yeah, it's unfortunate, but it was just I'm talking about feel good finals here, and that was not a feel good final. I feel like that was the opposite. So sorry, Boston. I am happy that all those players did manage to get a Stanley Cup. Now that we see Chara's retired and Bergeron's retired, but yeah, it's going in the F tier for me. Just looking at the feel good aspect of that. Okay, this is a tough one for me. Oh, I forgot to mention Tim Thomas as well. Absolute legend in that run, but yeah, it's a real tainted. So 2012, we go from seeing one of the greatest goalie performances in 2011 with Tim Thomas. We go on to see an even better goalie performance the next year with Jonathan Quick, taking this 8th place seed LA Kings to the Stanley Cup. And honestly, this is a pretty legendary run. I mean, they smoked every team out of nowhere. Just stellar goaltending, good enough forwards, and good enough defense. I mean, Justin Williams, Mr. Game 7, and Mike Richards on that team too. Dustin Brown, of course. Anze Kopitar, a very good player. Drew Doughty. Even Jack Johnson was on that team. I don't know if he got traded partway through, but he was on that team for part of the team at least. Slavov Wainoff, your boy. Oh my god, what an absolute scumbag. But yeah, there is a scumbag on that Stanley Cup. I'm not going to dock him marks for that though, because that was such a legendary run. I'm going to put an S tier. It kills me to say it as a Sharks fan though. It really does. But yeah, I mean, iconic run, really. I mean, feel good. I don't know. Maybe I should drop him to A, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was it's tough, man. The Sharks bias is really coming out. Yeah, screw the Kings. I'm putting them on A. But hey, great run.